and let it begin. Okay. First question, what do we need to change? What do we need to change this number to? Okay. We said we don't want to divide by decimal, is that right? What's that? I mean, our partial quotients, people, you can try and figure out how many 4/10 can go in there. You can, but it's not necessary. And the reason why we can change this is because of equivalent fractions. So we have 12 and 4/10 over a negative 0 and 4/10. That is the exact same thing as 124 over negative 4. All I did is multiply by 10 on the top and the bottom. Now I'm dealing with all whole numbers, and now it's something that we can all do. Okay? And the key thing is when we get done dividing, we don't have to change. We don't have to move any decimal points. When we get done dividing, our answer is what it is. Because we have to agree that the quotient of both of these two numbers is the exact same. Okay? So if we do our division, 124 divided by a negative 4, it's going to give us a negative quotient. Is that right? Okay. Now if we divide this way, how many 4s go into just this 12? And it's 3. Okay. Now because we're putting it here, it's actually how many 4s go into 120 is what we're looking at. Okay. That's technically what we're doing, but just because of the way this way works, we don't have to think of it that way. How many 4s go into 12? We put the 3 above the 2. Okay? 3 times 4 is 12. We subtract. There's nothing left over. And we drop down the 4. How many 4s go into 4? And that's 1. And there it terminates right there. Okay? And hopefully, kids go back and do right away. Maybe the first thing you do is say, my answer, it has to be negative, so that we don't forget that piece. Because a lot of times we go through and we do all of our work and we feel like a sense of accomplishment because we get it done, but then we forget about the sign. So if you go and do the sign like right off the bat, I put my negative sign up here. Okay? Right now I know my answer has to be negative. It's negative 31. Okay? Now if I do partial quotients, same thing. And I'm just going to put my answer has to be negative already. Okay? And so we can look at how many 4s will go into 124. And some of us might be able to guess 30 right off the bat, right? Right? Some of us might be able to guess 30 right off the bat. And that gives us 120. We have 4 left over. Now if I don't guess 30, let's say I guess 20 instead. Can I still get the correct answer if I don't make the perfect guess? That's the forgiving piece about doing partial quotients. Now, how many 4s will go into 4? We would say it'd be 1. We combine these two together, make it 31, and we already said that it has to be a negative. Okay? Everybody okay with that? So there's our dividing. Key thing that we want to talk about is right up here when we divide. Let's not divide by decimals. We want to change this decimal to a whole number. So all we're doing is doing whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. I'm multiplying both of them by 10 to make it 124 divided by a negative 4. Okay? Good. I'm not going to show the lattice method for multiplying because it's very similar to the regular multiplying. And the kids that are using lattice, to be quite honest with you, I don't think multiplication is really our issue. It's the division on both dividing decimals and dividing fractions. So one thing that we do know for sure is we know that when we multiply, order doesn't matter, right? So I'm actually, because of the way I multiply, I like to have the most digits on the top. Can we close Chromebook, please? Thank you. So I have my negative 1.25, and I multiply this by 0.325. Okay? And I know right away my answer has to be negative. Is that correct? Yes. Signs are different, so I'm already going to put my negative sign in here. I know it has to be negative. I'm not going to go through all my work, get the problem right, and then forget the negative sign. Okay? So now let's estimate before we begin. Okay? Now, if we move this down to just -1, and we look at this and say, well, isn't it about -1 times 1/2? Approximately? About? So we should get about 1/2. Does that make sense to everybody? It should be fairly close. Okay? Okay? So when we get done, we're going to go through and multiply, and then we're going to talk about where that decimal point has to be. Okay? Is there any way we're going to get one whole? Is there any way we should get one whole in this problem?
Probably not.
No, probably. Well, I mean, we have a number that's a little more than 1 times a number that's less than 1/2. Right? So it has to be less than 1. All right. So I go through and do my multiplication. 5 times 2 is 10. I carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 more is 5. And then 2 times 1 is 2. Can't have a number here. Should get rid of that there. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 more is 7. And then 3 times 1 is 3. Okay. We go through and we add. We have 0 here. 5 plus 5 is 10. We add 1 more here. Oops, I can't really see that. 2 plus 7 is 9, plus 1 more is another 10. And that gets us there. Now, we know for a fact that we can't have an answer of 4. Right? So just off of estimating, we know that, and we said that it should be fairly close to 1/2. Okay? We should get a -0.4. Now, if we want to know the true way, what we need to do is count how many digits are behind the decimal. There's 1, 2 here, and 1, 2 here. I don't know what happened there. That'll look really fun on the video, won't it? Okay, so that's 4 total spots. So we start at the very end and go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where my decimal goes. Okay? Everybody okay with that? Okay? And so just key message on that, remember multiplication's commutative. We can multiply in any order as long as we're only multiplying. So when I multiply, I put the most digits. The lattice people, do you guys put the more digits on the top of the box rather than on the vertical part of the box, or doesn't it matter?
I like them on the
Okay. Doesn't make a difference. And it doesn't on the way that I did it, but whatever. Okay. Now, when for number 3, we talked about 2 different ways to do this problem. Okay. Actually 3 ways. But the third way, drawing pictures or trying to equally share when we're not dealing with whole numbers, is kind of a difficult task. Okay, so we talked about multiplying by the reciprocal, or what I call flipping pancakes. Okay, and then we also talked about finding a common denominator. Now, who can tell me which method am I probably going to use here? I'm going to probably multiply by the reciprocal because I don't want to deal with 99ths, right? That would be my common denominator, would be 99ths. Not a good one. Okay, so our very first step that we have to do, whenever we're multiplying or dividing fractions, we have to convert all mixed numbers to improper fractions. So 9 times 7. 7 is equal to 63 over 9. Okay? That's why we do 9 times 7. That equals 63 ninths. We add that to 8 ninths. And just looking at a few that I've already corrected, some of us had 81 ninths. And 81 ninths is equal to 9. We should have a grand total of 71 over 9. Okay? Because I have 7 is equal to 63 plus 8 more ninths. We get a grand total of 71 ninths. And now instead of dividing, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to take 5 elevenths and make that 11 fifths. Okay? Now when I actually did this one, I actually had to go over and do 71 times 11 over here on the other side. Okay? And really, after I did it, I was like, that was kind of silly. Because can't we take, what's 10 groups of 71? 710, right? Then we just need to add one more group of 71 to it, right? And that's essentially, so we should get a grand total of 781. And when I do this, I get the same thing, 1, 7, 1, 7, and I get 781. Okay? So this is equal to 781 over, and unfortunately we can't simplify before we multiply, can we? Okay? Over 45. I'm okay with that answer. Okay? There's nothing wrong with an improper fraction as long as it's in its simplest form. I know many of you converted, and I think the answer, I'm going to go back because I'm not going to do the division up there, but I think it's 17 and 16/45. Okay? So I would accept either one of those two answers for that problem. And to find the 17, all I'd have to do is figure out how many 45s go into 781. And to be quite honest with you, do you know what I did back there? I used a calculator. I know.
No, you can't do that.
I know you guys can't do that, but I had to get the right answer, and I wanted to do it quickly. So
Can I use a calculator?
that'd be a negative.
I want to do
Okay?
quickly, and I want to get the answer right.
I know you do. I know you do. I want you to as well. All right, last one. Is our product here going to be positive or negative? It has to be negative because our signs are opposite. Okay, we should have negative 33 over 8, and we're multiplying that by 2 over 9. Is that correct? Okay, so I'm already going to put my answers negative, and hopefully we had kids that simplified before they multiplied here. Okay, hopefully we did. If you didn't, you get 66 over 72. Is that right? Okay. If you do simplify before you multiply, you took out 3 for both of these to make this 11 and this 3. And then you probably took your evens, your 2's out here to make that. And we should get a grand total of 11 over 12, and it's a negative 11 over 12. Okay, so just so you know, when you if you look at SchoolView today and you see how you did on your homework quiz, the kids that forgot signage, so if you put 31, okay, for this one instead of negative 31, or you just put 11/12, I gave you 3 out of 4 for that. Okay, there are some kids that were close on this one here, and they just multiplied incorrectly somewhere. One little simple mistake, I didn't give you a 2 for that. I gave you a 3 out of 4 for that. Okay. We had kids with decimal place issues on this one. There's kids that got 4, but they answered this as 4 or 0.04. Okay. and I ended up giving them a 2 for that. And the reason why is that you need to estimate, we need to have a legitimate spot for the decimal point. Okay? No, 2. 1 means you didn't show any work and you just put an answer down. Okay? So then I average all those together to give you your score out of 4 for your homework quiz. All right? So I'm going to send this video to everybody in case you need to review for tonight for your quiz. It's just something that you can look at. We'll continue to do some practice today in class. All right? Give me 1 second. I'll answer your question. I don't want to make the video any longer than it has to be.